the video requires a lot more finagling, especially when you're doing edits.
It's like a lot of, and it takes up so much space and it's so clunky and it's just like, I get the whole like vibe of it, but I don't have a $5 million lighting set, like, like, and I'm not like that crazily invested into,
Agree.
the whole, maybe one day.
I mean, I recognize that it doesn't take all that, but I'm also,
Right.
I'm looking at myself. So it's like, and I'm my worst critic, right? I'm already looking at myself like, damn, I should take today, but I didn't. So whatever.
Right. Like my nose is like red right here. I don't know where that's from. Like, it's just like, yeah.
It's from being outside too long. No, but what I was going to say is I have,
True.
this keeps me busy because for some reason when I jumped into this, I decided to do like 4 separate podcasts. And this is the only one.
Oh, wow.
This is the only one that I have people on. The other one is really just kind of narrative stories. One's for like kids for bedtime. Cool. One is like dramatic, fictional stuff. And then the other is like a movie review. So yeah, keep myself busy.
That's neat. Yeah, that is cool. You have like your little hobbies. I wish my dad, like one of them who loves like movies, and he would take himself out on dates, to go to the movies, but before the Oscars or whatever, like all the time. And like, I wish he should totally, like, I wish he did something like that. I think it would be really good for him. I think he'd love it.
This all got started because my husband wanted something to do in the evenings every now and again. So he bought himself like a movie pass. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's like $20 a month, and then you just go see all these movies.
Like, is it through like one of the bigger movies, like AMC or something like that?
It is through AMC. It's through AMC, and so I just to buy one too. So it's like every time I want to go see a movie, I just pick one and go. So it works out.
That's neat.
Life is grand.
Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
Somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby. You are gonna see.
First of all, so thanks for answering my request to be on this podcast. As you know, and we talked about it yesterday, this podcast is really centered on anyone who has a father figure in their life that they are pulling examples from, that they have kind of decided to add to their life to define how they're seeing things today and perhaps how they do not want to see things today. Now, whether that transitions into a family of your own creation later down the road or not, right? That's a whole different conversation, but not everybody is there. Not everybody wants to have kids, but everyone does have a father. So I think that's why the podcast is going to be beneficial for most people. So Ethan, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's rock and roll from there.
Sure. Well, my name is Ethan Levy. I am the son of 2 dads. So not only one, but 2. I grew up in New York City and went every single summer for about the first 17 years of my life to the Fire Island Pines, which was, the gays that know it, they know it as camp. It was definitely a playground for my dad's generation, now obviously my generation, but yeah, born and raised in New York City, kind of had a very, very non-conventional, if you will, upbringing that really shaped me into the person I am. Like I have always loved aviation, so I've worked a couple of jobs in the commercial airline space, one being with United Airlines, and then I moved to DC and became a volunteer firefighter, as well as I'm in EMS, and then I started my own company. So it's called Title Jets Incorporated, and we sell private aircraft to individuals, companies, whatever you want to say in between. And now I am starting another company that's an app that's based for aircraft charter. So that's exciting, and obviously the content creation, that was more so. It came about randomly. I was, in a very bad, I'd say emotionally a very bad space last year. And I decided like, I'm just going to go on and start talking to people. Like I had moved, I didn't really know people. So it was like my socialization hour, I guess, if you will. And then it kind of just like really, caught, because I was telling stories about my upbringing, and that was like, it was comforting to me, like to be able to share these stories. It made me laugh, and like I laugh all the time at my stuff, because I'm like, well, I can't believe I just said that, you know what I mean? But really it was kind of to to nurse me back to emotional health, if you will, at the time. And it really, caught. And I'm really thankful for everybody that like takes something out of my stories. And I absolutely love the community we're building. And I'm very happy to be on the podcast with you. As you know, I started mine, and I'm learning the dynamics of that. So thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to hopefully being of some sort of asset here, and being able to have a good conversation.
So you have a lot of downtime, is what you're saying, kind of like me.
Yes, yes. I have unlimited amounts of downtime. I don't know what to do with myself.
Well, towards the end, I'm going to ask you for your podcast information so that others can follow on once it gets rocking and rolling. But I guess one of my first questions is, we all hear, and I say we, right? The LGBTQ culture always hears about Fire Island. I've heard about it forever. Yeah, my husband are like, we got to go experience it. And, we just haven't made our way out there. I don't know if it's not, maybe our friends out here are like, Fire Island is too far. Let's find West Hollywood over here in California. Right. Or we just recently went to Puerto Vallarta, which has a gay space, which we had a fantastic time down there. But from your adulthood perspective, what is Fire Island today, and how's it different from when it was when you were growing up?
From my adult perspective, I would say it is a drug-fueled, sex-crazed jungle gym for very, very kind of, I guess, I don't know. I wouldn't say like, I don't think like, excuse me, I don't think pretentious is the right word. I think just more so, I don't know. Like, it used to be, and I can start here, it used to be a community full of, members of the community that would have a safe haven to go to. And it would be something where you all worked together, and like, you saw drag queens that were cooking dinner or lunch at some neighbor's house. And like, there was socialization everywhere. And it was like, a real, you built one another up, essentially. Like anybody would help anybody, like, it's because we had, or, the community had to at the time. Now I would say it's more of like who's like screwing who, and who's like kind of, knows who. A little E
under this one. So
okay. So who's fucking who, and like whatever. And like, I think that there's more of a social climber status to it now. I don't think it's a status symbol now. It's not like, it's not like, oh, we're going to Fire Island and like, do you want to come with us? It's like, I'm going to Fire Island, you're not invited. Like I have people in high places, like stuff like that. And it's very much so, I guess, I don't really know how to put it. It's curated. It's now like a scripted kind of just weekend. It's not something where people just go release. It's like you're almost more stressed now going out there, because you feel like you have to like uphold this standard. You have to like make sure everything's like socially okay, and like nobody is going to get ruined or canceled out there, and then mess up the whole dynamic of the house type of thing. It's just I don't know. I don't know. Honestly,
is it somewhere to go, do you think, to be someone different, or somewhere to go to allow someone to put you in a category which you don't normally exist in?
Like, what do you mean by that? Like, do you mean like now? Like, right, if you were to go, like, would you be?
Well, not yes.
that. I mean, I think
in that category. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, because I've never been, right. So is it more of like, I'm going because I want to either pretend, or I actually do have this type of a status that I believe is higher than most?
Well, I think the homeowners are the people that are grounded there. Like, I honestly think the people that own the house, like the houses out there, like they really, they appreciate the community. But right. I think what ends up happening is that now there's so many people that come in either renting for the weekend, renting for a week at a time, like it's not like the quarter share, the half share, like the mentality it used to be. So like we had people in our house that would rent, a quarter of the summer, right? So they'd come out every third weekend, but it was the same people that were always doing that. Right. So like, it was something in which like, now you have like the day tripper that always comes out, or you have like multiple hotels that people are just renting for a weekend. There's no like home, there's no like sense of home there, if that makes sense. Like there used to be like you knew your neighbor, you knew that, like, who owned that house for 20 years before them. Like, it's a very different dynamic now, where it's like more of the influencer type. So I think that there is that notion of like, arrogance there, because it's not actually like they own the homes. It's just more so like they have the invite to go, or they're paying to go, or brands sponsoring them to go, you know? So it's like either they have the money and they want to flaunt it, so then it becomes a status symbol thing and they've rented this big house, right? Or they're getting sponsored by a brand, so it's curated, it's scripted, or they, you know, actually own the home. And that's like, you know, that's the sense of community there. That's the, like, you know, POA board and all that stuff. Like, the homeowners association essentially is like, I think that it's getting diluted, or there are too many, I guess, transplants that are coming out. Like, and that's not, you can't stop that, but it's just more so like, it's more accessible than it used to be, or it's just more like, it's the thing to do now. I don't, you
It's
know,
like the influencer community, because I keep hearing a lot about how influencers tend to impact a region in such a way, right? You have people like, first people that went out to like Ibiza or Mykonos, and all of a sudden now it's overrun with people wanting to come out and visit, because it's, I mean, it's genuinely beautiful, but they're all transient, there for the weekend and they're gone. And the respect for the area, you know, the culture, the architecture, the it's all like, I didn't bring that with me.
Right. Like, people go there to be private. They don't go, like, that's what it was like growing up. Like, they didn't go there and, you know, use their phone. My dad would put his phone away all weekend. It would be off. He wouldn't even touch it once, you know, like, that was kind of the energy there. And now it's like, you're going and, you know, publicizing this to everybody. It's not really, it loses the touch of what it once was, which was a retreat. It was a sanctuary, you know, and that's what, you know.
You're two amazing dads, yes. I'm hearing.
Yes.
Tell me about them and your whole, like, growing up with gay parents, because I'm going through that now. Obviously, I'm married with my husband. I have a 12-year-old son. So I'm hearing this from you is probably a little bit of what I'm going to be hearing from him in a couple of years. So I'm curious as to how that all goes, or could go, should I say.
Yes. So, like, in terms of just in general gist of everything, like, I think.
So let's start with who are your dads? Who do you know to be?
So my dads are Rob and David, and one of them is in the furniture world. One of them is retired. So I grew up with kind of that interior design, and then developing. My other father worked in training and development. So, like, that's, you know, I was very much so developed and trained. And you know, I had a lot of policy implementation and just like kind of, I guess, design implementation and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly.
Change management it too.
I knew the word tacky before I knew anything else, to be honest with you. That was like one of my first words, I feel like. But, you know, my parents came from, like, my grandfather on one of my dad's side, David, like that, like, he was the first person in his family to go to college, you know? So, like, it was very much so like this generational thing where my dad really worked hard, and they both worked very hard to kind of like get to where they were. And they met each other through our good friends that live, I believe, over in London now, that are still together. And they were at like a party one night, and they had been together for about, I think it was like 8 or 9 years before they decided to adopt me. And Rob very much so was pushing this adoption. Rob was like, I really want a kid. I really want a kid. I really want a kid. And, like, you know, back then it was something that was like, we were in the New York Times when I was adopted, because it was like, that's just, you didn't hear of that happening.
Yeah, true.
And it was, you know, I had one friend who lived 2 blocks away, ironically, of course, because I grew up in Chelsea, which is, you know, where all the gays lived, and at the time, and that was kind of just like the place to be. But, you know, I had one friend out of anybody else I knew that had 2 dads. Like, that was it. And he lived 2 blocks away from me, and we would hang out all the time. Outside of that, there was nobody I knew that had gay parents. And so my parents really raised me, I think. They had the pride flair, if you will. Like, it was very much so like, this is like who we are, but this is not like, we don't need to go be like, you know, in your face and like, you know, obnoxious about it. And just kind of like, my parents raised me in the way that was just a normal thing, you know, like being gay, or just like, it wasn't treated as if it was some, you know, over the top, like, oh my gosh, like, we need to amplify this and make sure that he knows what this means. Like, they let me just like ingest it naturally and digest it naturally. And then, like, ask questions as I would get to different stages in my life. And like, the first one was a mom, right? Like what does a mom mean? And because I had a female babysitter, that's kind of, that's what showed me motherly instincts, and then my aunts and stuff like that. And that's when I started grasping that, and I would ask them like about mine. And then, as things progressed, like I kind of understood, like going to pride parades, what that meant. Like I didn't really get the notion of like what we were fighting for at the time because I was younger, but like as we kept going, as I kept aging, I kept understanding, especially then realizing I'm gay myself, like out of anything else, like what that signified. And like I always appreciated that my family never really they never like shoved it down my throat, like it was very much so like, this is who we are, we're proud of who we are, we're going to like, stand like strong in that, and like go to marches and do all these other things. And we did that all the time.
Did they give you the "it's okay to be straight" speech?
They actually, so I came out as bi first, and that was earlier on. And like they didn't really, they were just like, it's okay to be whoever you want. Like my parents very much so don't care about like who people are. And like I didn't grow up knowing any color, I didn't know any genders, I didn't know anything like that. Like I just know people, right? Like I judge somebody based off of their character, who they are, what they stand for, and like what their views are and how they treat other people. Like I don't care like what color you are, I don't care what gender you are. I doesn't, it's not something I see, but for me, it was, and that's, that was just very much so ingrained very early on. Like if I would make any comments that were out of line or something that could even be perceived as, like somewhat, I guess, judgmental in a different way, like because of whatever, that's then when my parents would be like, we don't say things like that. Like, and it wouldn't even be anything bad. It's just like, I was very much so corrected, like, and taught just to love people for them being people,
Obviously in the gay parenting world, as we try to navigate that today, right, there are a lot of misconceptions out there around gay people and kids. We have some friends of ours that also adopted or went through the adoption process, fostered, adopt around the same time that we did, and their experience was a little bit different, right? They've got a lot of feedback of two gay dads cannot raise a daughter because they won't have the fatherly influence, which at the same time, right, if two gay dads are raising a boy, then by that same logic, where's the motherly influence going to come from? Why is it okay for one and not the other, right?
I was saying like typically like the mom would be closer to the female, and the like in stereotypical kind of like America, like it would be like the mom would get along with his daughter better, and the son would get along with the dad better, the sports and then the shopping kind of narrative, or
exactly. And it always comes down to sports for some reason, right? You get to play sports with your dad. It's like, okay, sure. Right. So do you know if your parents ever had to, I know that they have a certain perspective and they're very like, BU, but just in the world, having gone down a path of adopting a child in a timeline where that was not frequent.
Yeah.
Have they ever expressed to you what those challenges were for them?
I think yes. And I think that the biggest thing, one of the challenges was like people didn't even, it was so uncommon that people couldn't even understand. They see like gay men with a son on the street in New York, and they didn't even think that this could, like, it was a dad, two dads, you know what I mean? There wasn't even that like direct connection of like, this is possible. So like everybody, would just be like, oh, really? Like, how are you doing with like that? Like, is that is that even working for you? Like, you know what I mean? And so like, I think that was like really the contrast, is it was so abnormal that people didn't actually say anything really about it. But then once they knew about it, they were very much so like, whoa, like, what's going on here? Like, why is this happening? Like, who gave you the rights to do this? Like, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, that I have a public platform, I have people all the time that are like, I don't even care if your parents are gay. I'm just like happy to see you, and like that they've raised somebody like this, you know what I mean? And like, that is what I really appreciate, because for the longest time, like I grew up thinking that like me being gay was a direct like impact on like, or I guess the perception would have been that my parents like made me gay, which then fit the stereotype and the narrative that like I had been bullied for when I was younger. And so like, I think that's what like a lot of, other people look at gay parents as, is like, you're going to influence this decision, quote unquote, like, for, your child, and like that's not fair to them, right? Like, but at the same time, heterosexual families do that all the time, you know, like you're saying like you're supposed to go be with a female, like, oh, how's the girls, like, are you getting any girls, like, you know, blah blah blah, like the dad will say that to the son, or like, you know, but at the same time, like I actually had more freedom of expression to do whatever I wanted, which then like when I made that decision, when I was comfortable, like not decision, but when I, you know, was comfortable with my sexuality, like that's when I, you know, it's only because I had every opportunity to be whatever I wanted, you know, like it wasn't like a decision. It was just more so like an expression of just who I am and coming to terms with that. But yeah, no, it was definitely one of those things where back then my parents would get a lot of stares, and they would get like a lot of really dirty kind of like looks on the street as if they weren't qualified. Like they didn't have the proper degree or credentials to possibly raise a newborn, you know. But like my parents were so ingrained in the community though that like everybody around us was gay, like everybody around us. So like my parents didn't really face backlash there, but it more so my parents were in the scene a lot. They would go to parties, they would be like, you know, very social, and everybody was like, how are you going to do that with a kid? You know, that's more so what it was like within the community.
I think those are fantastic perspective, because obviously going through the adoption process today, there are so many steps and hurdles that they've now built into the system. You know, intentionality for gay parents is a big thing, right? You have to go through classes, you have to pass a background, you have to get screened, you have to, you know, so it's like these are all steps that no straight parent has to do, but every gay parent needs to do, because there's an adoption process that needs to be adhered to. And I oftentimes stress the difference between gay parents and straight parents. It takes years sometimes for LGBTQ couples to get a child. And
yeah. And sometimes you get a child after years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they could be working for 8 years, like it falls through and that's it.
Exactly. So all the people that I talked to in recent weeks about surrogacy, I'm learning so much about it. It is such a hit. And I mean, you could go to the last minute and have that thing fall through, and then you just reset the clock. So it is such a stressful thing to decide that you want to have a child. When gay people have children, I mean, it is like it's the miracle. So I see the intentionality of trying to build foundations that says be who you want to be expressive, be everything, so that there's no the taboo nature of things can be dismantled, right? You're seeing nudity on TV with men and women. You're seeing nudity on TV with just men. You're seeing nudity on TV with just women. So you're seeing everything. We're not. This just came to mind because I have a 12-year-old, right? So he's into girl, which is fine. But you know, when we were growing up as kids, we often had our friends at the house, and they were guys, and we're gay. So it's like we had the opportunity to have sleepovers and our doors closed, and because everybody assumed everything was fine, you had a guy. Here at our house, whether it's a guy or a girl, that door stays open, because we're like, it's the same rules across the board, regardless of what you're into.
Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. It's like, it's not like, let's make this conditional based on how we want to, like, you know, we want you to turn out or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing is like, there's so many stipulations and kind of things to work around. I feel like if you do grow up in just like a normal household, because that is the mold that you're trying to fit into, then like your parents have created this like nest for you essentially, that then like you're going to have to like fit into, and like, this is what we want for you. So we're going to push this agenda on you because this is what your grandfather did. This is what they did, blah, blah, blah. Like, but in a gay family, that because it's so much work to adopt, and because there's so many hurdles to get over, by the time you get there, you just want to love your kid. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to be a dad that like gets to experience that, because you just went through hell and back to try to like, you know, even get somewhere close to becoming that, you know, like having that title, that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And it's just like you're going to stand with what you believe as, you know, you should for your son, right? Like the rules that you set out, it's not because we want you to be this way. It's because this is what the standard is. We're not going to take that otherwise. You know what I mean? Like it's a hard no, because it's something that you guys believe is right. We can have a girl over for a sleepover. We can have a guy over for a sleepover. We can have both over for a sleepover. But the rule is the rule is the rule.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that you want him to be this or that. You know what I mean? It's just like the rule is what it is, you know, and it doesn't, it's a play. Now, if another family would say like no or something, because that's not how they want, they don't think that it's going to be safe or whatever, like that's them pushing their agenda on their, you know what I mean? Like it's like their kind of, they're influencing, but not subconsciously influencing, I guess, if you will, because that then, you know, instills this narrative of like every time going forward, like, is it bad to have a sleepover with a guy? Like, why, you know, like if I'm a girl,
you start
like
questioning that,
up,
right?
like now I'm wondering,
Mm-hmm.
right, exactly. You know what I mean? It becomes this like this point of tension, I guess, if you will, like internally. And that's like where internal conflict stems from. And then lying comes after that because they don't feel like they can explain these things to their parents. And like, it's just like, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah. And I go back to this all the time because it's so prevalent just anywhere on television, but it's the straight sex scene that you let the kids watch because they've seen it so many times. But then when the gay sex scene comes on, you change the channel. It's like, why'd you do that?
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
You know,
right.
I wonder if you have any insight into the connections that you had when you were younger with other families. And the reason I say that is because we're very intentional about trying to include in our community LGBTQ couples that have kids as well. And we have that. Jacob gets to see other gay couples raising kids, and their kids gets to see us, you know, raising our 12-year-old as well. So representation matters, right? But one of the things that we take very great care in doing is making sure that we are always aware that regardless of whether we want to or not, we are role models, whether we want to or not. You know, his friends that come over and out here, the parents that allow for their kids to come hang out here, we have a responsibility to showcase that, no, we're not normal, but we're not dangerous either. Because I think that is often the misconception. So when I send my kid off to school and he's like, hey, I want to hang out with so-and-so, I send the note. And that note is always signed by 2 male names, right? So that they know this is a LGBTQ house. If you're not okay with it, please don't respond to this note. Like, let's set that up.
Right, exactly.
So I wonder if you have any accounts of whether it's, you know, positive or not, or somewhere in the middle of those type of experiences.
So I grew up going to like what's called the center, which was kind of like the center for LGBTQ individuals, because that was just like up down the street. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a very big, you know, organization in New York area, tri-state area, and that was like my community base because like they would host events, they would do like various things, and that's how I got to know maybe other people or individuals that had kids with, you know, or they adopted kids or whatnot at the time, because I only had 4 or 5 friends out on Fire Island that I knew, and 3 of them had 2 dads. The others had a mom and a dad or a grandmother that was their guardian or whatnot. But my parents, and my parents all the time, like there would be things like, oh, is Mrs. Levy gonna come to parent teacher, like, you know, conferences and stuff like that? And my dad's honestly just laughed. Like they didn't really they didn't really let all that type of thing like get to them as much. I think, and this is something that I really have started to like dive into, is just like, you know, I think we're so used to having to suppress that, like we overcompensate. So like we're expecting somebody to say something wrong to like, and then we take it as an insult. Like if they like say something like that, like, you know, my parents didn't really have their guards up. They didn't really care. You know what I mean? Like, and so for me, I think that there's this difference between like being guarded and being like, don't tolerate this, that, and whatever. But there's a difference then between like being overly sensitive, if that makes sense. Like, so for me, I kind of grew up somewhere in the middle where like my parents didn't go out of their way to like correct people if they did stuff like that. Like, but at the same time, they would be like, this is like, we're gay, you know, like at the same time, there would be no doubt that two men that were at the parent teacher conferences where, they would do things like that in unity together. Like they would like even when they separated, they made it very well known that this was a joint party decision and that two men were doing it. But it wasn't something where it was like if somebody stepped out of line by accident, because it was just the norm back then to have a mom and a dad, like if somebody did that, like it would just be like they would shrug it off. They'd be like, whatever, like, no, it's David, like, oh, her name's David, like that's how they would respond, something like that.
I think that's awesome. I think how parents react, especially in front of their kids, is important. And every opportunity doesn't require, thunder and lightning. Sometimes just a gentle correction is all that's necessary. And some people take that in stride. Exactly. And you have the idiots out there that require a little bit more attention, but
you have the people like go for it, like they actually like record people at restaurants as they're sitting there, like the whole they them thing. Like if you're sitting there recording a server that's trying to be polite by saying, sir, would you like some water, and you haven't told them that you go by she, but you like visually represent something else, like, you know what I mean, like it's now you're just going for clickbait and like that type of like thing. Now you're reaming out somebody on camera because they just try to be polite, but they don't know that you don't go by those pronouns. Like that's kind of what it is. My parents very much so were like, they don't know that, like they would assume that because 99% of all the kids in his grade, he's the 1%, like they have moms and dads. Like it would be safe to then make that assumption, so like they would just look at it that way and they would not let it bother. My parents very much so were like, we don't give a fuck about anything. Like they're like, we don't care about what people have to say about it. Like it's not their life. It's not my life to worry about what they are worried about. Like let me just like, go to Fire Island and have a drink. Like that's kind of
stressful, right? What other people think about me is none of my business is one of my favorite sayings.
Right.
What are some of the things that you've noticed that you've incorporated into your life as an adult that you've got from your parents that you love, and if you were to ever have kids one day, you would want to pass on to them? And then conversely, right? Mm-hmm. What's some of the things that you're like, that was great, but not for me today?
I think the number one is just my my confidence in who I am, like just not like in a cocky, arrogant way, just like I'm very grounded with myself, and I just very much so like know what I have to offer. Like I know what I don't have to, like what my, what I can work on and improve, and I'm constantly doing that. Like I just think I feel very grounded in myself. I feel very much so like, but it's not like I have like all these outside resources in terms of like my parents. Like I'm not relying on them for that sense of grounding. It's like they really instilled that you are this individual, like you need to own this. Like if you make a mistake, that is what, your brand is, right? Like that is a reflection of who you are, and it's not a reflection on our parenting necessarily. It's solely like, you decided to make that decision, like you have to answer to that. And so for me, like I'm very intentional with certain things, and I think that that's something that they taught me to be, like, as even just with writing, like if I'm saying on a text message, I plan to do this, I'm not like, oh, like back and forth, like, what do you think about this? What that about that? Like I'm very direct. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. Like, let's go here at this time, like, whatever. And right. I think that that's something that I really value in just kind of my ability to make decisions, because it, like, for myself, I'm very like, this is what you're going to do. I have to get myself to do that sometimes, but once I make that decision, I ground myself in it. So I think that that's something, I have a very big sense of identity. And like, I think that like, I was given the runway to have that. And that's why, it took me a long time to get here. It took me about like 20 years, I'd say, to probably, then 23 would be like when I was actually proud of myself, like when I started like actually like developing into the person that you see today, like that is, me. And it's a work in progress always, but I think that that's the number one thing. And then I'd say,
do you think that makes you more of a serious person than before, or do you feel like there is a good mix of like the serious and the goofy side now? Like you've come into your own?
I think, like in terms of my parents, like how they view me?
No, just you in general, how you see yourself today.
Oh, I think I definitely take myself seriously now. Like when I started my company, I was like, I'm not the CEO. Like I couldn't be that title, there just was not that emphasis behind it. But then when I like now speak to people in my space, like I am the CEO. You know what I mean? Like that's how I carry myself because it's what it is. You know, like I run a company that I started from the ground up, and like, you know, I'm sorry if I'm proud of myself for that. Like that is something that, you know, like I'm not sorry, but like people, you know, want to guilt you for things like that. And it's like they don't see the 2 days in a row that I just stayed up to do, you know, things that needed to be done so that way I could have what I have, or like, you know, so what didn't come easy. It's not like I was handed this, you know, world. It was, I was put in a world that like was intentional, and I was put in a world that was safe for me to make mistakes and learn from it. And, you know, sometimes I had to learn the hard way, but at the end of the day, like I still had that foundational love, and like it wasn't necessarily, sometimes it was tough love. Like my parents kicked me out when I was 18 years old, and I haven't looked back. It was the best thing they ever did. You know what I mean? Like it's about how you turn it and learn from it and grow from it and what you want for yourself. And at the bare minimum, you should want something that, you know, is like a goal or a dream to work towards. Like I always have something to like work towards, to grab. So that way I'm always working and developing and like using my mind to do something. At the end of the day, when it's time to sit down and work and do things and, you know, pump shit out, like I have, like, I do it, you know, like it's no one else is paying for this. So like it is really one of those things where it's like
Everyone's got their hand out. They don't want to do the work, right?
Right, exactly. And that's the thing is like now, like people are like, why do you ask me to do this? I'm like, because your job description requires it. Like, do you not want to have a job? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if anything, I would want to do it because you're like, especially being in my company, like you're at a startup, like you have the opportunity to like forge your own way. And that's what I want people to do. Right. But people just want to play it safe and cushy within their like degree requirements or you know like description, and like they don't want to like take that risk because they're comfortable being complacent. Like that is, you know, what it is. People are so comfortable with doing the bare minimum because they get away with it. Like, and that's just in my book, that's not acceptable.
Change is not for the weak, for sure. All right.
Yeah.
So what have you learned that's like that was great? It worked at that time. Maybe it was good for that time, but not for me anymore.
I think just kind of like the I don't know. Like I think that there was like at one stage in my life where I just kind of formed into like the status quo, as I just mentioned. I think that that's I never really I played it safe, I guess, if you will. Like I was just very much so like, okay, well, this is working. Like I don't need to like do anything or like make any changes. And you know, but I wasn't working mentally. Like it was just like depressing, and it was, you know, very difficult for me to progress, I guess, because I've always been a larger than life, take on anything that like I set my mind to and get it done type of person. Doesn't matter how well I do it. Like as long as I can say I finished it, I tried, right? Like and for me that's something where I for a long time there I was kind of suppressed by a drug addiction when I was younger. That was something that a lot of people don't know about me, and that's like, you know, gonna sure come out eventually if not here. But like I for the first about from when I was like 15 to 19 or 20, I battled with a Xanax addiction where I overdosed and I died for 4 minutes once, you know, like that was something in which like in college, and I dropped out of college and like I went to rehab. Like people don't know this side of me, you know what I mean? And it's not that I hide it at all. It's just more so if you know me personally, that's like one of the first things I tell you, you know, like this is like who I am, like this is what shaped me, like because I believe in like creating an honest version of one another, not one that everybody sees on social media. But like that's
you're not using it for clicks, right? You're not trying to get an audience.
No, exactly. Right, exactly. It's not like I want to like monetize that, right? That was a very real traumatic experience in my life. Like waking up in the back of an ambulance with somebody doing CPR on your chest, like that's just like not, you know, something that I'm sure I could monetize that, but that's not my brand. You know, my brand is like grounded in that authenticity, and I don't like to exploit opportunities like that. You know what I mean? Like I don't like taking advantage of things like that because it was very real. It was very raw. It was very emotional. It's the reason why I launched into EMS and fire, because like I saw them doing all of this and taking care of me and like, you know, bringing me, literally reviving me, you know, like, and I applauded and commended that so much. And it gave me a goal. Like one day I was like, if I ever make it through this, like I want to do what they did. And then I did it, you know, like that's kind of what people don't understand is I'm not this like, just like content creator. I'm like, there's more to life about me, like way more, but like about me. And I have a day to day and like, you know, And I think that that's really what I've tried to like shift away from, is like going outside of the box and like saying the things that like people find funny and like, you know, were part of my story, but then like grounding it in message, right? Like why, like I'm still sending that message that like this was just my daily life and like everybody loves it, but at the same time, like we should just treat it like that. Like this is like a normal thing. Like parents that love their kids, doesn't matter like again, race, color, like or excuse me, race, gender, like it doesn't matter what your sexuality is. Like if you have two loving parents, that's what matters, right? Like that's what matters, like with good intentions and that know how to, you know, give or facilitate an upbringing that's, you know, better than what they would have had otherwise. I mean, think about it. Like a lot of adoptees are coming from the foster care system or coming from, you know, foreign countries that like they would have probably barely made it, if not like traumatized for the rest of their life. You know, like that is giving somebody an opportunity at life, right? Like if my mom did not make this decision, then like who knows what my life would have been like, you know?
Tell me about your adoption story, because you
Yeah.
said I don't know it, and you can let me know if she is still in the picture or was just that one instance. Is like, thanks.
She was never in the picture. Honestly, it was a closed adoption. Like that was the requirement at the time because, you know, it was just like she wanted, I think she obviously had her stuff and like her reasons and whatnot. I actually did a 23andMe about 4 years ago, and it turned out that one of my first cousin, that's my aunt's, which is my mom's sister's daughter, right? So like my first cousin, and that's yeah, that sense. She was the only person that came up on the 23andMe, and my parents actually put her parents in touch with her mom to adopt her. So like my parents, so if you think about it, we were socialized as well. Like, and that I didn't know that growing up. Like I didn't have any idea that the person I went bowling with was like my biological first cousin, you know, like, and that was like very cool to see. But outside of that, like my mom, I had to hire like a private investigator to find who she was.
Did you find her? Is she still around?
Yes, yeah, yeah. And I actually live probably 45 minutes away from her. Like
Oh,
yeah, like I lived probably 45 minutes away. Yeah. So I was born like right outside of Pittsburgh, basically, like on the New York border. Well, like, yeah, like Jamestown, New York area. So about an hour and a half, maybe, or 3 hours, I'm somewhere in between there. I don't know. But I coincidentally, of course, just like came back, gravitated back this way. But yeah, you know, and it's not like I keep tabs on her. I probably haven't like looked her up in a year and a half, 2 years, but
she's a stranger at this point, right?
yes, she is. She's a complete stranger. But as my health, like I started having some health issues, like, you know, as I got older, I needed to know specific things or like pointers so that way I could inform people that were in places to take care of me if I needed it, like what, like who I was, right? Like DNA wise and like just kind of like what my predispos are in terms of health. Like I need to know that information so that way I'm able to make calculated decisions. And that was that's my primary motivator because you know, I need to understand what my background is. And that was something in which, like, at that time, like, because it was a closed adoption, there wasn't much information. Like, my parents knew my mom and, like, they interacted with her, they got updates and stuff. And my parents kept in touch with her for about the first 12, 13 years of my life, but it was very like behind, like under the table type of stuff, like sending letters back and forth, just kind of updates. Like, you know, they didn't tell me. I found all that because my nosy ass was going through my dad's closet once and I found this binder and it had all of this information of like, you know, my siblings, like all of these things. And it was like I mean, that was like a pivotal moment because that is when I grilled my parents about like everything. Like that's when I was ready for that conversation of like,
You could have found more than just that. So kudos.
right, right, yeah, right, exactly. But yeah,
How does how does the journey start? Your parents, did they sign up with an agency, and that's how
they saw like a newspaper. Basically, they were like that. Like I think I was like a newspaper ad essentially, and they called and they were like, you know, because there was no rule book, there was no playbook to this. So like most agencies wouldn't even recognize domestic partners, so like they wouldn't even work with them. So my parents had to hire their own attorney. Like they had to like do all of this. Like they created the playbook. You know what I mean? They made their own adoption process, and like when it was granted by the state of New York, I mean, it was literal news. Like it was like very widespread news that like these gay men just got approved for adopting a child, right? Like, and that was like very cool because that's something in which, you know, it was a benchmark and it was was something that my parents really did kind of pave the way for. And like, it's weird to say that, but like, and it's weird to be that kind of like kid that was brought up in that. And my parents were used to working hard. Like my parents were used to working hard for shit, if not double as hard as anybody that was normal would have to, you know, but like, so they didn't show it. They were like, yeah, that was just like another thing we had to do. You know what I mean? Like, and that's really what it is. They didn't make it a big deal. They've never guilted me once over anything. They were never like, we brought you into this world, like do this for us. Never, ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've never leveraged the fact that they've adopted. I've leveraged it. I've been like, I didn't even ask to be here. If I was mad, you know, like when I was younger, that type of shit. But like, and like the me now would punch me in the face like then for saying some entitled ass shit like that, because I really recognize and appreciate, I think, like, and that's why I love sharing these stories, because it's a nod to them. It's really, you know, a nod. Like I do it for them. They, you know, obviously would not like their faces everywhere. And like, I try to respect that, but like, it's because like, I see how many people love it and it resonates with them in some sort of way or helps them. And like, I'm not doing it for recognition for myself. I'm doing it to like commend them for what they did for so many people now. You know what I mean? Like so many gay men are able to have kids and like go through the process like publicly. And like, that's something that they're not like necessarily shamed for. But my parents had to be very quiet and tiptoe around it and like find out how to like basically find loopholes with their own attorneys, with their own, like they really had to like create the playbook. And like I think that that's something in which like I really, you know, I admire, and like I bring that into my work, which is like you know, I'm never going to take no for an answer in the best way possible. You know, like I'm not going to let somebody else tell me I can't do something. If they do, that means that I'm going to work double as hard to prove them wrong, you know, like, and that's how I really carry myself today, is like if anybody tells me no, then like watch closely now, right? Like
such a warm feeling to have, knowing that the desire to have you as a child was so great that I mean, I can't imagine. I'm sure they were very humble about it. But it couldn't have been, you know, I think about what we had to go through. It's easier than what they probably ever had to go through. So
right. Right. And you know, it's a testament to love. And I think with all gay families, like everybody needs to stop and ask themselves, why would they subject themselves to this type of like tedious, treacherous, like, you know, work if they didn't love the kid, plain and simple? Like why would we do that? Like, why would we, like, you know, that would just be really fucked up to invest all this money just so you could like abuse a kid like that. You know what I mean? Like, and yes, there are families out there that have done that. Then like the most recent being, you know, these horrible men that have now been like, you know, jailed for 150 years or whatever. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, but like, outside of that one example, I mean, there are plenty more straight families that have like, you know, of course now every straight family is using their, you know, not everyone, I shouldn't generalize, but the people that don't want the gays to have kids are now using this one example to like cast a shadow or light as if like every single gay family does this.
Right? Get the biggest paintbrush,
right? And like, and that's
paint them all.
Right. And that's the thing, is like we have these moments of like we're not allowed to be humans, but like a one person does not identify the entire group, right? Like that's not how we work. And like you know, a lot of straight, we'll just say a lot of straight families are the, you know, there's a whole reason why DHS is a thing, and like a lot of that stems from straight families not being able to take care of their kids, not like knowing that they were pregnant, and like now there's like this whole foster care system. Like, you know, most of the people that are, there's not a single kid, maybe those two kids unfortunately, but like other than that, there's not a single kid that comes from a gay family that's in a foster care system. Like, is there now? Right? Like, that's not, because it's the opposite way around, right? Like no kids come from that side to go then to foster care, because the parents that adopt want the child, you know, they care about the child, they like love their kids. So like we need to stop as a society and think like, why is this gay father like, you know, doing this? Like, not to, you know, I mean, some maybe for publicity a little bit, but like it is a cool thing. It's like something that people want to share, and I think that they don't share it the right way, because they commercialize it. It's like it becomes this like, you know, oh well, we're buying an accessory type of thing. You know what I mean? And that's like really, it's gross to see that I really don't like. But there's a tacky way to do it, and there's a very like, you know, humbling and very homey way of doing it. And I think that like that's often blurred. And now it's a status symbol in the gay community. If you have a husband that, you know, you have a kid with, it's almost like a status symbol. And I think that that's like cool, but like, let's not remember, let's not forget, like 26 years ago, like, you know, people were literally getting beaten to death over like stuff like this. And like, you know, became something
And
where
still
they were
are
said
in
that
parts of the country. They still are.
yeah, exactly. That, and I think we have a, as a society, we have a way of just like kind of like turning a blind eye to that, but it needs to be really brought to the surface, because people that like this whole vibe of the community is like we have to support the people that are, you know, in the shadows having this like kind of transpire. And I think that that's really what I'm trying to bring back on social media and like just in general is like a safe haven for everybody, because that was like my Fire Island. You know, I want people to have that. And like but yeah, so like I think there's a lot of like very, and I'm learning what my mission is with all of this, right? Like what I'm trying to do with my platform, how I'm trying to like use my voice, the voice that I will like say fuck you to your face, you know, and like I don't care type of thing. Like if, you know, if I stand for something, then I'm going to stand for it. But like how I like kind of you propel that in a direction, and like whether or not I want to do like more of the adoption, like helping parents and like kind of just like, you know, that type of angle, or like, you know, I'm really trying to like pinpoint, because there's so much that like I feel like I know and I can help.
I have a thought, and I have two questions.
Yeah.
It's kind of piggybacking on what you were saying about intentionality. I think for
Mhm.
LGBTQ couples, a lot of them love their kids even before they even have the kid, because that road
Yes.
is such a long road.
Right.
Whereas traditional baby production, if you will,
Mhm.
you fall in love with the kid because you know the wife is pregnant and the dad goes through, so it's
The
like
mom holds the kid. Right. Right.
exactly. And well, through LGBTQ process, obviously you have to go through such a long road, and it's the fight that we're all accustomed to because we've been doing it for so
Mhm.
long. And that's a mode that I think we now have an opportunity through this podcast, through your podcast, to be able to
Mhm.
out of, to say you don't always have to be in the fight in flight mode. You can actually just
Right.
accept and
Right.
relax a little bit sometimes. So
Right.
my
Know when to
question,
pick the battle.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, we always want to battle, right? It's just the mode we've always been,
Right.
and we've become pretty good
Right.
at. Fortunately, that's not sane. Um,
Yeah.
you still have a good relationship with your folks.
Yes. We don't have like I say, it's not, it's a professional kind of relation. Like there are I love yous, like and all that, obviously, but it's not like something where they're toxic relationships where I have friends that speak to their mom and dad like every 2 hours type of shit. Like they're texting all day long. And like, you know, I just my parents are busy, I'm busy. Like we have all of our lives that are just like rotating constantly. Like if I'm happy, like if I fly to New York or something for a work event or whatever, like I'll text my dad and be like, hey, do you want to get dinner? Right. Like or something like that. It's a very like professional relationship, but I know they're always there, right? Like, but we check in with each other. We'll have our group texts every now and then. We'll be like, do you see like this happened? Or like, what do you think about this? Or, you know, like they saw some articles that were done on me about like what I'm doing and stuff like that. And like, you know, it's just like back and forth. It's not something in which like, you know, if there's a conversation that needs to be had, the phone's ringing or you know we're texting and other than that, you know, we all live our lives. Like we all, like my parents are separated. They have been since I was 12 years old. So they, you know, I don't know how much they communicate with one another, but like we communicate with one another when we do. And then I have like my break off, you know, messages with both of them and stuff, where like we'll just check in with one another.
Is it just you, just one?
Oh yeah, they could not. I don't think. I think like once they realized like what it was like the first time, they're like, yeah, we're good on this. We're not gonna. Um,
Door
yes,
closed.
yeah,
Nice. All right. So tell me about your podcast.
right. It's called Raised Right, Not Straight. And that's just obviously a play on like I'm gay. My parents were gay. It was just like, you know, I thought, but I was raised and I'm coming to realize the right way, I think. Like it's about being raised in a family that loves you, that has values, that like push you into directions that were, you know, yours to figure out, but like, you know, with love. And I think that that's really what it is. And it's just a deep dive into all of my chaotic stories growing up that I now realize were chaos. Like in the moment, it's just like, it was just everyday life, and just talking about just like things that I've taken from, those moments in time that like I would say fully, I did take advantage of, like I took advantage of all these little things that like I didn't realize were so abnormally like special, if you will, like that now it's like my reflection on all that and how it made me into like the individual that you see and hear. Like it's an ode to that, and just kind of like a way to talk shit and a way to have fun, and just talk about present day things, and breakups, especially lawsuits, and like all those like those little things,
It's
but like
therapy.
tie them back to like, right, exactly, but tie them back to moments in my life like where this is like that helped me like assess the situation now to like think about it in this way or like that, or like whatever it may be, and talk about me and like just like my fuck ups, and that it's okay to be human, and just have a real human touch to it. That's all it is authenticity. That's who I'm trying to like strive to be every day. Not trying, but like I'm trying to push, like it's okay to be authentically yourself. You'll find the people that gravitate towards you because that's what they love you for. You shouldn't push to be in these categories or whatever. There shouldn't be categories, but like people that love you are going to love you no matter what, and they'll find you and you'll find them. But that's only if you are who you are.
Okay, so how often is this coming out? When are we getting all the good stuff?
I think so there's an episode tonight, which is July 30th. So everybody, obviously, but I think what I'm doing is I'm going to do a stacked system. So it's going to be 1, 2, 1. So I'm going to do one, like, I'll have a week where I only do one episode, and then one where I do two, and then one where I do one. So I'm thinking as of right now, it's going to be, I love Sundays because that's my wind down day. So I feel like it would be like a nice, like, way to go into the week, like a 5:30, like 6, 7, maybe. And then probably around Wednesday, Thursday, like midweek, to kind of just like have a funny like laugh, and 30-minute just shoot the shit where people, and I want people to ask me especially like questions, and I want people to like get involved in this because I want people to have the answers to questions and topics that they think about. Like that's like my social media is not for me necessarily. It's like for my experiences in real time, in real life, or previously, that like, if people have questions about it, like I want them to like have the proper answers, or the, insight for their, whatever it may be that they are inquiring about. So I'm thinking about doing it that way, just to test that and see, because like obviously in the beginning, and social media, people think that there's like this whole hack to social media. There really isn't. It's just staying consistent and like being, I guess an authentic self. And like I think that we go on social media and we almost expect to see a curated version of someone. That's not the point of social media. The point of social media is so that way people can see what you're doing in life, like not just like what you want them to see through a lens, like a filtered lens. It's just like, this is the good, bad, the ugly, but this is also the great, like there's a dimension to it that people are so used to seeing this like fixed version of people, when in reality the stuff that actually pulls people is the authentic side of like, I messed up, like this is what's going on in my life, like I want to talk about it, because we're human. We connect that way.
We have to have a community that allows for us to see ourselves out there and not feel
right.
And that's right. Really what your podcast is going to do. That's what Fathernetics is designed to do, to say, hey, that's me. I'm not doing something weird. I'm not doing something different. I'm not doing something wrong. I am going through the same path that you did. And hey, maybe I can avoid that landmine because you've just told me how you did it.
Right. And if I do something wrong, I did something wrong. Like there's proof that people can do like things that are not necessarily okay, but like that can come back. There's redemption there. It's just all about like, structuring yourself and like being real with yourself, like to build that back up. Like you fall down, get the fuck back up. You know what I mean? Like scratch, like dust it off, get up. Like, who are you kidding? Right. Like, that's my thing. Like my babysitter would put me in timeout if I didn't push that kid back that like knocked me over on the whatever, the play set or whatever, right? Like that's how I was raised. Get the fuck up or you're gonna be in timeout. Go kick his ass.
Like, old right now, the play set.
Yeah. I'm an old girl at heart.
That's okay. Okay, so on the outro here, first I want to say thanks for taking the time for being on this podcast with me.
Absolutely.
This was fantastic.
Absolutely.
I reach out to a lot of people just trying to make sure that I can get their perspective. And some of them are big accounts, some of them are small accounts. So it's kind of really a crapshoot who responds. You know, some people feel they're too far down the road to engage, which is fine. I get it. Not everybody, you know, is on the same page. But you're gonna have kids one day?
I want to, yes. I want to.
Okay.
Boys.
You want to have two boys?
But I think, yes, and I think I honestly, because I was adopted, right? But I don't that like I want to maybe do surrogacy because I want the DNA, like I want the ancestry there. You know what I mean? Like I want to carry on my lineage, like, and I didn't have that. So like, you know, it would stop with me essentially on my end, like, because you know, for me, I don't really know my brothers or sisters, or if I even have like, you know, full brothers or whatever. So like for me to have like a kid like myself and see that, like, I guess the just like a mirror image of myself. Like I think that
even though my kid Jacob is adopted, his personality is what we see the most because he's picking that up from us left and right. So that's to see.
My parents, I always used to get like I looked like one of my dads. Like I would always get this comment like I look like Rob. And like Rob is like a white Jewish man, right? Like I am like a mixed, you know, whatever. I have a big ass nose. My dad does not have a big ass nose. Like it's just like it's one of those things like where people would like they would trick themselves into being like, oh yeah, like you guys look alike or something. Like I don't think my dad and I look alike at all. Like, you know, it's just, but it would be funny because it was just their awkward tension at a doctor's office to make conversation or small talk. They'd be like, oh yeah, I can totally see it.
I hate small talk too because it's fluffy, it's unwarranted. It's like,
right,
give me something that has a little bit of substance. You know, you look like your dad. Okay,
or just shut the hell up.
White,
you know what I mean? Like
black. Like we don't look alike. All right, Ethan, thank you so much for joining us and spending some time with us. I'm sure there'll probably be an opportunity for a second pass at this, and as we dive into season 2, whenever that
maybe I'll have you on mine.
Hey, yeah. You know, I don't have any Fire Island stories, but maybe between now and then I'll come up with something.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you'll visit Fire Island. Who knows?
Not the way you described it. Now I don't know if I want to go.
No,
I might be too.
Yeah, old. I mean, it'll be $50,000 to go for 2 weeks, anyways.
Yeah, hard pass.
It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna spend that on Maldives.
Right, exactly, or PVR.
Exactly.
PVR's. Yeah. Cool.
All right, Ethan.
Well, thank
you, sir. Good luck with everything. Obviously, I'm subscribed to your podcast, so I'll be listening later on tonight.
1, 2